Retrained podcast. I'm your host, Emma Thomas, executive coach and workplace menopause consultant. You can find more about me in the links in the show notes. But this isn't about me. This is about today's guest. Kate Oakley is the founder of Your Future Fit and has always loved fitness and training. But for years, she squeezed that around a demanding corporate career and family life. And then during lockdown and shortly after turning 50, she decided it was time for change. So after a 25 career in HR, she retrained as a personal trainer, wanting a role that made her jump out of bed in the mornings and truly embrace midlife. And she knew that she wanted to help peri and post-menopausal women navigating the same challenges that she'd faced herself. So her goal is to help women not just get through this stage of life, but thrive. That's very much the theme of our podcast. And she focuses on building strength through small, sustainable habit changes. She's recently launched her own strength training app, Lift for Life, and I'm sure we'll get into that a bit later. And also shares clear, practical fitness advice and midlife wellbeing insights with her community on Instagram. Welcome to the podcast, Kate.
Thank you. Thanks, Emma. Good to be here.
So before we get into what you do now and all of that good stuff that I've mentioned in the intro, I think it's really, really interesting. We talk a lot about career pivots and sort of changing up our lives in midlife. So how did you get from there to here, to where you are now?
I know it's not a common story, is it, to be in HR for 25 years and then become a personal trainer at 50. I see people's shock when I tell them. And I think the first thing I want to say is I did love my career in HR. It's not that I was unhappy and this was an unfulfilled part of me that made me pivot. But I've always had the mentality that work takes up so much of our lives in terms of the time. So if we have a choice, let's try and enjoy it, because I just never wanted to be one of those people on a Sunday night that got that feeling of dread about the coming week, because I just think life's too short. We need to make the most of it. And the reason that I started to think about this pivot was I started to actually not enjoy the HR role. And I think I remember I won a new contract, because by then I just started to become freelance. So I was a global HR director. Then I went freelance for a bit. And I won a new contract, and I should have been celebrating, and I wasn't. And this was at a time when I was starting to also get what I now know were perimenopausal symptoms. And it kind of, those two things collided, not enjoying the HR role so much, also needing to make some changes in my life because I wasn't feeling great. The exercise I was doing was no longer seeming to serve me. So I used to do a lot of cardio, a lot of HIIT. That just didn't seem to sit well with me anymore. My diet didn't seem to be serving me well anymore. I wasn't feeling full of energy. I was feeling flat at best, very moody at worst, which I now realize was perimenopause. And I started looking at my peers, my friends, and everyone was starting to go through this. And I suddenly realized that exercise and diet and making some good changes to my wellness could actually be the answer. So I started looking into actually retraining. And I've always, as you said at the beginning, I've always loved being fit. I've always loved working out, but it's never something I'd contemplated as a career change. And I thought I might be too old. And I thought, who's going to want a personal trainer who's 50? But then with perimenopause, I thought, well, do you know what? Actually, if I had somebody who'd been able to tell me, yes, but if you perhaps make your training look like this, Kate, if you make strength training, I'd never even thought about doing more strength training, less cardio. If someone had been sharing that with me as a message, I would have been all over that. If someone had said that if I ate more protein, I would stop snacking so much all day, which is what I was doing, and I'd have more energy and I'd sleep better, because my sleep was disturbed with perimenopause. So I thought there is a need actually for a trainer, a personal trainer, a fitness coach in the menopause space. So I knew who I wanted to work with. I wanted to work with peri and postmenopausal women. And I decided to retrain. I thought, what's the best that can happen? Rather than what's the worst, I thought, what's the best that can happen? And I went for it. And then COVID hit. And I think that changed the landscape for online training quite considerably. So I think, before COVID, a lot of people thought we had to train in person, in a gym, in fitness classes, rather than actually being able to train online using a trainer online, be it on Zoom, be it on YouTube, be it via Instagram. And so that really opened things up for me. So that's where it all started.
And did you sort of take a complete break from what you were doing to retrain, or did you sort of do those two things alongside one another for a while?
That's a good question. Do you know what? Being perimenopausal, my ability to multitask fell off a cliff. And it's still not what it used to be honest. I went for it. I just went for it all out. I thought that I just didn't think I would be able to do both. Now that comes with a privileged position that I had a husband who said, I will pay the mortgage and I'll pay the bills while you do this. So I was in a very lucky position. You can, though, if anyone's listening and thinking, well, I'd love to do that, you can choose to do it, at weekends or in the evenings while you're working. But I didn't. I just went all out, and I hadn't studied for a long, long time, and I found that really quite challenging. My kids said, "Mum, you're doing more work than we did for our GCSEs and A levels." I said, "Yeah, I think you're probably
I
right."
felt sorry for you.
Yes, I think you're probably right. So no, for me, the way I learn, I had to just be all in, all encompassing, embrace the whole lot in one go.
Mm. And so I think one of the things that people really like about the stuff that you share on Instagram, like it's very, very achievable, very like sort of quite short workout. I mean, what's the longest one that you've ever sort of shared on there? Are they sort of tend to be around sort of 10, 15 minutes?
They're around 10 minutes and the reason I started sharing just 10 minutes is because it's if I find it overwhelming and I've chosen to do this as a career, how would the person who's just trying to squeeze in a bit of exercise around work, aging parents, teenage kids, and everything else that life throws at them, how are they going to go from zero to finding 45 minutes or an hour several times a week? And I just thought that is so overwhelming and also a lot of pressure. It just feels completely out of reach. And I think 10 minutes feels doable. And I think if we're creating a new habit, and obviously not everyone is a beginner, but if we are creating a new habit and that habit is strength training, we need to feel this sense of success. And that's what's going to continue the habit. If we feel like we're failing, which is quite often what happens, if we think of, for example, a New Year's resolution, right, I'm going to start January, I'm going to go from zero and I'm going to work out 3 times a week, 45 minutes, let's go. And you start off and you perhaps do the first 2, maybe even 3, and then it's just not sustainable. And then
reality bites.
And then you feel that you failed. And rather than scale the goal, the ambition back, most people just bin it. And I totally get it. So I really wanted on my Instagram and now on my app to make the workouts feel doable. And I got messages very early on from fellow midlife women saying, I saw that and I thought even I could do that. Now it breaks my heart a little bit that the even I bit was in that, because I can feel where they mentally and emotionally are at with that sentence. But I wanted everyone to feel they could do it, because when you do it and you think, I did that, it makes you feel good.
Positive reinforcement to do it again.
I'll go back for more of that. And then before you know it, that maybe creeps up to 15 minutes and so on. And you can repeat it. If you are somebody who's a bit further along on the journey, those 10 minutes, it's a circuit of weights. You can then repeat the circuit and you can create a 20-minute workout or a 30-minute workout if you want. So you've got that flexibility. And I think people are under the they misunderstand that, well, what's the point? What's the point in doing 10 minutes? Is there any point? Is it going to achieve anything? And, you and I both know the answer to that is yes, it will. And I've had lots of clients who I see increase in their weights, and yet with what they've got going on in their personal lives, they've not been able to commit to as much as they would like. They've only been able to do a 10 minutes here and a 10 minutes there. But when you look across the weeks, the months, even the year, all those 10 minutes, they do add up, and you're going to build strength with those. Obviously, I would like people to do a bit more than that. I'm not going to pretend that, I would love everyone to be only doing 10 minutes. But if that's all you can do right now, that's still going to go in the bank. It's still going to help you get stronger. And I think once you start feeling that effect into your daily life, things start to feel a bit easier, whether it's carrying the shopping or doing the gardening, or when I really notice it is if I go on holiday and I have to put my, when you're on a plane and you have to put your bag in the overhead locker, and you think, oh, I can do that. I don't need someone to help.
Don't need anyone to help me.
Yes, I'm fine, thank you. We need to keep it achievable, doable, and keep that sense of success going, I think.
And so we'll talk about the app in a sec, but because that's one way in for people who are thinking, okay, I've heard all of this stuff, online or read about it. The fact that I need to be doing strength and resistance training in midlife. This is kind of, we've got to make it a non-negotiable, but a kind of just a bit rabbit in the headlights of, okay, I don't really want to go to the gym. Just I don't know. Personally, I hate kind of being in kind of gyms full of big sweaty men, and it's very intimidating. I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same. So what are the kind of the sort of the different ways in for people if they've just never done anything like this before and just feeling a bit rabbit in the headlights about it all?
I think the first thing is to think just to start small, start somewhere, and it's never too late to start. So if you're listening to this and perhaps you're late 60s, early 70s, and thinking, well, it's too late for me. It's not.
Ship has sailed. It hasn't.
It really hasn't. We can still build muscle at a later age. We can still improve our bone density, and we can still support our joints better and move through our daily life better. But so I would start small, and I would just start at home. I agree. A lot of women are intimidated by going to a gym and a fitness class, perhaps with other women, because perhaps they feel that they're twice the age of the other women in the class. And it's easily done, isn't it? You look around and you think they look like they're doing it better than me. They look more agile. They look stronger than me. I don't know why we do it to ourselves, but we do. We compare. And so doing it at home, it's just you. You've already taken the pressure off. It's just you. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. You can wear, some old, top and leggings. So again, you're not thinking, well, that's one thing.
Everyone's looking at me. Oh.
Or it's the trainers that you walk the dog in. That's all fine. And I would just say you don't need much equipment, a pair of dumbbells, and that they're not that expensive when you're buying the light. They get expensive when you need to go up. That's a long way off. But
you can I guess you can buy them secondhand as well. I don't know if people kind of shop around for stuff where people have bought them and kind of just gone off the boil and selling them all.
Yes, definitely check, eBay and those places, and Amazon Marketplace, and even your local Facebook group. There's people in your local area who also will be selling them, and shop around. It's the unusual places actually, like Argos and TK Maxx, and you can get good deals. So you need a mat and a pair of dumbbells, and just start small, just 10 minutes. I would say just start. If you can schedule it in, I think that works well. So, sort of put it as a commitment in your diary, like you would anything else. So, I'm going to do 10 minutes on Monday, Wednesday and Saturday, and commit to that and see how that feels. We don't need to be perfect with any of this either. So if one week you don't manage those 3, that's okay. You did 2. And it's a lot about doing what we can when we can, isn't it? It's not, life will get in the way. And I think that flexibility, knowing that life will get in the way sometimes. So going into it thinking, I'm going to be flexible with this is also, I think, a positive mindset.
And having that long-term mindset as well about, as you say, it might kind of ebb and flow a little bit if you've got a tricky week, but having that kind of mindset of like, okay, this is who I am now. This is a kind of part of, just part of my life. So over time, all of that compounds, and as you say, you know, you will get stronger and you will be able to do more and lift a bit heavier and gradually. And I think it's maybe really important as well to talk about not kind of overdoing it too quickly and kind of, because we are more at risk of injury, aren't we? As we're kind of
definitely. And I don't know about you, but that was one of the biggest changes for me in perimenopause. I felt like the exercise I was doing before, I felt really close to injury a lot of the time. So with the hip, and I'm not saying that for those that love HIIT to stop, but I certainly felt I needed to be much more careful. And so with strength training, I think if you've never done it before, I think it's really reassuring how slow it is. It's slow, controlled movements. You're in charge, you're in control. So if you have got, often we see, don't we, there's, a bit of frozen shoulder or tennis elbow, or if you've got something going on, you're not going to suddenly make some jerky movement that aggravates it. You're in control of this and you're choosing what you do at a slow pace. So I would definitely say start slow, start with short workouts. If you can get guidance on technique, I do think it's important. So if you can follow somebody who actually talks about the technique a lot of the time, and that I talk about, I'm passionate about technique, it's going to mean that it's safer and it's more effective. And I think sometimes when people are working out and they're thinking, why aren't I seeing progress? Sometimes it can be because they need to actually focus on the technique a bit more. So I'd say it's not a race. None of this is a race. As you said very, very eloquently, Emma, it's, this is the forever, isn't it, really? We are going to be using weights forever. So in that case, let's make sure that we're doing it in a way that we enter into it slowly but surely, and in a way that feels doable for us. And that's going to look different to one woman to another, depending on their lifestyles and their commitments. So slowly, surely, have that flexibility and a focus on technique, I think is important.
Yeah. So, well, tell us about Live for Life then, because I think that's obviously that's one option. And there are other products out there, but why? So, why did you decide to do this? And is it sort of squarely aimed at people who are sort of in this sort of space of they're just starting out and need that kind of gradual introduction to strength training?
So I've been working for the last 5 years. I've been working one-to-one with women over Zoom, and they're all kind of 40 plus, and it's given me a really good understanding of exactly what's going on for women and their bodies in this space, plus obviously my own experience. But from a financial perspective, that's not viable for everybody to work one-on-one. So I wanted to create something that was more financially viable for people. And I launched Live for Life just recently, and it is aimed to begin with at women who either have not done weights at all before, or they've dabbled, they do a bit here and there, or they do use weights, but they don't know how to do it effectively and safely. So they think, well, I'm following so-and-so on YouTube, then I do a bit of her on Instagram, but I don't know if I'm doing any of it properly. And why would you, really? Because you're not getting that kind of tuition. So Live for Life Foundations is the starting block, and everyone goes through that before, if they are more advanced, then they progress up to the next stage, which is called Momentum. But you start on this Foundations because I found with my one-to-one clients, people say, "Oh yeah, I've been doing strength training for 3 years now. Yeah, I know all the technique. There's still a lot to learn, and I'm still learning. You know, we're all still perfecting our technique, and that's what stops it getting boring. Actually, is that we're always trying to get better at what we're doing. So yes, they go for this month. It's a month program, 3 workouts a week, and it starts, as I've said, at a doable amount. So it's like 20 minutes building slowly to 30 minutes, real focus on technique, really slow, controlled movements. But I take care of making sure you progress through those workouts. And I think, you know, we understand this term progressive overload, but that's not a term that if you've not done strength training before that you understand. But you need to be making sure you do progressively increase the weights, or you increase the load through the way that the exercises have been programmed together, so that you actually get stronger across the weeks. And I think that's the bit that's missing by following workouts on Instagram, even mine, because they're random. They're not programmed as such. They're just, oh, I'll do that one today, that upper body one. Oh, I'll do that lower body one today. That's not a program, that's random. And we need to actually make sure that people are progressing through what they're doing. And that's when you'll see that you start to lift heavier weights. Gosh, I was using 3 kgs a month ago. And look, actually, I'm finding that easier now. Maybe I'll be able to move to 4 kgs soon. And they start to progress. And that feels amazing. It slows down, doesn't it, Emma, as you kind of do it more often.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a weird spot now where I've got like we've got 10 kilogram weights and we've got 15, but we've got nothing in between. So that is, yeah, maybe those 12 and a halves are going on my Christmas list. But if you told me that I was going to be throwing around 15 kilogram dumbbells when I first started, you'd be like, don't be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've got my little 2.5 kilogram weights here. But you do,
don't, and it's not just us saying that. That is what will happen. It will happen, and that feels amazing. And I think also see we were brought up with weighing ourselves and the scales, and I see a lot of women feeling quite down on themselves that maybe that number's gone up on the scales in this period of life. When you start to feel stronger and you're lifting those heavier dumbbells around, and everyday life feels a bit easier because you're stronger and you're moving better, that number on the scales doesn't seem so important anymore, does it? And you feel better in your clothes, and you're going on what you feel like more than what you look like. And I think that's quite liberating. And that's a nice byproduct, I think, of starting to strength train at this time.
Yeah, and I do genuinely think as well that you do feel mentally stronger as well as physically stronger, and there is we won't go down a kind of a rabbit hole of all of the research around that, but we know that there are so many benefits just above and beyond the kind of getting a nice pair of biceps hopefully at the end of it.
Oh gosh, I mean,
still well padded with.
Yeah, I mean, we are future-proofing our bodies, and I think we haven't talked much about improving our bone density, but that's a fear, isn't it? That when we get older, we fall, and then that's when issues can happen. But that resilience, that sense of control, the impact on the mental well-being, it's almost not talked enough about. Actually, for me, it's like a secret power. Especially if you are at a time in life where a lot feels out of control. I think actually that time that you just spend committed to yourself with your pair of dumbbells actually makes you feel like you're getting a bit of control back in your life, and it just makes you feel more able to cope with what's being thrown your way, which can be a lot at times. So yeah, if I had one tool in my toolkit for menopause, it would be this.
Yeah,
over and above everything else.
Yeah, I think it's easy as well to deprioritize. Quite often, the time that we spend on ourselves those are the things that go first when push comes to shove, and life is lifing extra hard. But actually trying to ring fence that time, and really, obviously, there are things times when you just can't do that. But I think it is so important to prioritize that kind of investment, not just in because it's a double whammy, isn't it? Like, you're going to feel good now in the moment when you're doing it in the kind of short to medium term, but we also know that kind of in looking kind of much further ahead on the horizon, into our sort of 70s, 80s or whatever, like our future selves are going to be so grateful that we prioritized ourselves now. And it's, you can't kind of claw that back once you get there. You kind of have to have all of that, what we've talked about. I talk about this sort of health pension, that's not I didn't come up with that, but just sort of, these micro deposits that we're making all along the way in midlife add up to something so incredibly valuable. And I see that in my own parents and kind of other people of their sort of age around them who have, as you say, they've got that frailty, they've got maybe issues with osteoporosis, other things that
that posture. We don't. This will actually help with our posture. So I don't know. My parents, there's the shoulders. My mother-in-law is struggling with her posture. She knows she's struggling to keep up.
Sitting up extra straight now. Anytime someone says that, like immediately, like.
And we'll see that improves. But yes, thinking ahead and thinking, how do you want to be living your life in that last kind of stage of, I want to be living life the way I choose, not the way that I have to because I didn't do what I needed to now. And I think that's what motivates me now also to get out there and do a workout, is that I want to live the life I choose further down the line. It just needs to be done. I mean, I think that's the way it needs to be looked at, really. A bit like brushing your teeth. We don't question, you brush your teeth. I mean, I find that so boring, but it has to be done. And I think if we could see strength training as it has to be done. It's a non-negotiable, rather than do I feel like it? So people will say, well, Kate, how do you stay motivated to do the workouts? I try to not even go there, actually. So if I find my mind wandering to, I don't really feel like it today. I don't, no, I try and stop that chatter, because I don't have a choice. I have to do it. I need to go and do it. And I try and look at it more that way. And then the other trick I play on myself, which might be helpful for people listening, is I'll make a deal with myself and I'll say, well, just do 10 minutes. And then I give myself permission to stop. Mm-hmm. I just am hating it. I just need to be anywhere else but here. I give myself permission. So I do the 10 minutes. I ask myself that question. Well, I'm here now. It feels all right. I'll do another 10. And then 9 times out of 10, you will do a workout. But just giving yourself that permission to stop seems to just take you over the hump. And you actually, all right then. All right,
I'm sweaty now, so I might as well.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think that's a good one. And I think, motivation is easily lost, but actually like kind of making that commitment to yourself, to your kind of your future health, to, as you say, to kind of to build it in a sustainable way, and it kind of coming back full circle, really. It's like, well, do yourself a favor and try and build it in a way that you can make it a non-negotiable. And whether that's, twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever it looks like for you, what is it that is going to make that doable in the longer term? Because we're not just talking about 6 weeks till Christmas or the kind of run up to beach season or whatever. We are talking about something, and it is hard sometimes to kind of to keep showing up, but it is like, how are you going to plan ahead to make this something that is part of your week every week?
And we're all different. So I'm seeing already. There's a Lift for Life on the app. There's a chat, a community. So, and I'm seeing this community start to grow, which is lovely. And people are just saying, I'm only on week 2. Well, I'm on week 3. That's so. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It does. We all need to go at the pace that's right for us, because that's what will mean that we will carry on doing it. If we try and go at a pace that doesn't work for us, doesn't suit us, doesn't suit our lifestyle, doesn't suit our who we are as a person, that's when it doesn't work. So I'm trying to create a culture in Lift for Life, which is one of not feeling that pressure and the overwhelm. Yes, we need to do it, but without the pressure and the overwhelm. And we need to speak kindly to ourselves. So, if we only did 2 of the 3 workouts this week, how would we, if a friend told us that, what would we say to a friend? We wouldn't berate the friend and say, well, that's useless, isn't it? You only did 2 out of the 3.
Yeah,
Well,
come on.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? Yeah. We would say, well done you for getting 2 done. That's brilliant. Okay, how do you think next week looks? Do you think next week you might be able to get the 3rd one in? We would talk in a kind, supportive and encouraging way. And I think we need to do that with ourselves, because it's a bit like dieting. When people, as soon as you start that negative narrative, it doesn't work. It just makes us feel miserable. And we actually, I think, most of the time do the opposite of what we set out to do. So let's all talk to ourselves kindly and encourage each other. And that's what I'm trying to create with Live for Life as well.
So if anyone's interested in kind of getting into that, how often do you you're running them on kind of a cycle of
monthly
intakes? So it's not like they can join at any point.
It's a monthly intake. Yeah. So if they, look on my Instagram, they will see I'm always sharing when the next intake is. Obviously, it depends when this goes out. So I don't want to kind of give clear dates, but it's around mid-month on a Monday. And the program it's set out to be a month, but I'm fully expecting people to take longer over it because of what we've discussed, or repeat the month, because people will want to embed what they've learned, and it's the right level for them. They might not want to move on up. So yes, every month they just message me, and I put all the links on Instagram and they can join up. And it's very easy to join. Got to keep the obstacles. Got to make sure it's easy for people. Minimal kit, minimal equipment, just a little space at home and a mat and a pair of dumbbells, and you're good to go.
Brilliant. Well, I hope if you're listening and you're feeling inspired to come and join this brilliant community of all of us kind of working out strength workouts in midlife, I promise you won't regret it. You'll be so happy in a couple of months that you kind of made that decision and kind of took the plunge. And I'm sure for a lot of people it's a bit daunting. It's a bit like, oh yeah, kind of like one of those things that's easy to put off. But I will obviously put all of your links into the show notes, Kate, so that people can find Lift for Life. I think accountability is magical. So having something that's kind of structured and has community always makes a really big difference in terms of kind of how well people stick to things and how much you enjoy it as well. I think if you're, that you're kind of doing something with other people, even if you can't necessarily kind of see them, just knowing that you're part of a kind of a group of other people doing the same thing at the same time as you is quite motivating.
It helps. You feel like you're in the same boat.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you, Kate, so much for coming to talk to us today. And go and check out Live for Life and start paying into your health pension, and your 78-year-old self will thank you.
She will. She definitely will. Thank you, Emma.
Thanks for listening to the Middling Along podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please go and leave us a review over at Apple Podcasts. You can check out the full back catalogue of all our episodes over at midlingalong.com. You can also find out more about my work as a coach. Go to www.thetripleshift.org.